This panel is supposed to be from acting in theater, television, film, DJ, whatever. Normally I ask like what you guys have questions about or transition and things like that, or I can tell you guys my background, how I started and things like that. What would you guys prefer? Do you want a brief history or do you want to launch into questions?
Brief history.
Brief history, okay. I started acting when I was 6, doing film and commercial stuff. And then I got into voiceover when I was 7, just doing radio commercials and various things like that. And then I started working at Radio Disney when I was 9. I was an image kid, and I would do all of the promos for the station to build the image of the station. I started doing theater only because when I got into middle school and high school, they didn't have a film department or a voiceover department. So I was like, well, I guess I'll be doing plays then, so that's fun. So I kind of did everything backwards. Most people do plays first and then do film and TV stuff. When I was 18, graduated from high school, I started working at Funimation. I'd actually been trying to work at Funimation, but I didn't know what Funimation was. Somebody just told me, yeah, you might want to try to work there. And I was like, well, I'm in school, so I don't know if that would work. But I graduated from high school, and I needed a real job. I was going to college, and the whole idea of being a working actor was very scary, because up until then, I'm like, well, if I don't get cast in this thing, I have school, so that'll be fine. I didn't have school anymore. And I got cast as Cy and Peach Girl. And I remember thinking, this would be cool if this company did like more shows. If they did shows like all the time. Little did I know they did like a million, like a lot. So kept working in Funimation, and then Radio Disney asked if I wanted to have my own show from 8 to midnight on Saturday and Sunday. And I was like, yeah, I don't have a social life, so this is cool. So I did that. I ran my own board and edited the calls and played the music and all of that stuff. And you'll learn that 60 seconds and 30 seconds are a really long time to get things accomplished on the air, because everything's like super fast. You're on your toes. And now I've started working in LA and doing voiceover and film, more film stuff and commercial stuff. And while it is still the same business, there are things in different markets that are more relevant. I mean, LA is definitely an edgier market. There's a lot more like models. Not that there's not models in Texas, but the models in Texas are like, oh, I'm also a teacher, and I also sell real estate. And in LA, they're like, no, I'm a model, and no, I don't eat. Whereas in Texas, they do eat food. So it's just like the markets are different, and the type of projects that you work on are different. There's a lot of motion capture stuff in LA that there is not really that much of in Dallas, and I haven't really gotten to do a lot of motion capture yet. There's 2 types of voiceover. I mean, there's a million types, but mainly the 2 types are dubbing, where they have the animation already set, and they'll give us a script, and we watch the cartoon, and we have to match the flaps, and there's really no leeway in ad-libbing, except for, well, there's an extra 2 flaps. I guess we gotta add some, as they say at Funimation, flap spackle. And then the engineer will like shift things around and make it fit. And then there's where you will do the track, you will read the whole script, and you're acting either with the director or sometimes with the other actors. At Funimation, we never work with the other actors. It's us in the booth by ourselves in a padded room. Sometimes I do feel like they think I'm crazy. But when I worked for another animated film that I did with Sean Astin and Tim Curry, I never met those actors either, but I acted completely with the director, who had seen their performances, so he knew what he was getting to match them, and they videotaped me, and then they were going to animate the film based on my facial expressions and allow that to kind of guide them as they're creating the character, which is cool. I've done another voiceover project. I was doing an animated, well, it became animated later. It was just a radio show at the time. And there were 14 actors. They had the entire cast in this giant room. and we would go in probably at 9 a.m., get done at 6 for a 40-minute radio show, because we'd rehearse it one time, we'd go through everything, and then we'd record it, and we'd take the notes that we were given, go through it again, and then if we still didn't get the exact read, he'd do alternates or go line by line. But those are really fun because you are working with other people, and you know, there are jokes and people say funny things. And I was working with a 7-year-old at one point who had like ADHD, and I love him to death. I mean, I was 13 at the time, so I was so old. I felt I was. He kept falling off his chair, and we worked together for like 6 years. Maybe it was like 4 years, I don't know. It felt like a long time. And the reason we couldn't continue to keep doing stuff is because his voice started changing. So that was so hard. It's so hard for boys when they start as kids, and then their voice changes, and suddenly they sound like a man and not a boy anymore. So yeah, so any questions on projects, things? Yes?
Were you into anime at all before you started working with Funimation?
I knew anime as Sailor Moon, Pokemon, and Dragon Ball Z. I was like, cool. And I liked Sailor Moon, I liked Pokemon. I played the Pokemon cards, went up to the library or the bookstore or the comic shop and would do the competitions on the weekend with my brother. I was not very good, but I felt cool. And then I was like, I auditioned for Peach Girl. I'm like, this is like a soap opera, like a high school soap opera, but it's animated. I wish they did more of these, because this is kind of fun. And I found like my favorite genre is more of the supernatural stuff. I really liked working on Shiki, because it's such a, I say the anime is an entire gray area. You pick your side and then they flip-flop it on you, and you really see things from both sides, which I love when stories are geared that way. And when I was very naive. Clearly, I thought 3 anime were like the entire like world of anime, and the more I started working in it, the more I was like, wow, this is. I really wish that people, like in high school or just in general, understood that they really could find something that they liked if they tried hard enough, because there's the entire world of anime spans so many subgenres and so many whatever, that if people would get over themselves and be like, hey, it's a Japanese cartoon. It's like, yeah, it's a Japanese cartoon. It's highly intellectual material. It's really cool. And it's like watching a Disney Pixar movie with more of an adult content, some of it. So get over yourself and just watch it and find something you like, because you will. So yeah, that's my take on that. But when I started, no, I was incredibly naive. I was like, whoa, this is like, you're not throwing like a Pokeball at everybody. Wow, they're having a conversation. It's crazy. So, yes. Any other questions? Yes?
What is the take on uncredits? How come voice actors have some uncredited roles?
Well, there's a lot of like technical reasons for that. Sometimes when you're doing like an on-camera career, you want to run into the issue of like unions, and if you're a union actor, that means you cannot do anime because it's non-union work. Unions regulate how much you get paid, how many hours you can work, and most of the time the dubbing industry is done completely non-union. So if you're living in LA, it becomes really difficult to be a working actor and make a living of doing it and still continue to do anime, because if you join the union and somebody finds out that you're doing anime, they could turn you in and you have to pay this like huge fine. Like it's crazy. And but if you're in Texas, it's a right to work state, so you're allowed to do union projects. Like I was allowed to do Fast Food Nation, working on Chase and Friday Night Lights and things like that, which are all union projects, and still continue to do non-union anime work. So a lot of times people will come up with another name that's like uncredited or something like that they can work with that name, so that the paperwork still allows them to do non-union stuff even though they're a union actor. And that's not like, it's not, I guess, legal. You're not supposed to do it that way, but a lot of people are like, I've been working on the show for 130 episodes. I love the show, I love these characters, and the last thing that I want to do is say, I can't do it anymore because I just booked this huge McDonald's commercial and it shot for a day and now I can't do any more of this anime. And they're like, I want to do it for the fans, I want to do it for these people, I want to do it for myself, like I love the production, I love the people that I work with, so they'll credit it under a different name so that they're allowed to continue to work on it and not get turned in or sued or have to pay $15,000 for a fine. I mean, like, yes, we don't make a ton of money doing what we do, so when we have to join the union, you have to pay like a $3,000 price tag to join the union, and nobody has $3,000 lying around. I mean, I'm sure somebody does. Bill Gates probably has $3 million lying around, but most of us don't. And so it's like, it's such a catch-22. As far as like on camera work, if you look on IMDb and somebody's like, I was in this project, and it shows uncredited next to their character name, that is due to the fact that I was in The Mist, and I was in New Girl, and it'll show up as uncredited or not show up at all on stuff, t-shirt and all this stuff. It was very cool. And he's like, so I'm putting you in a trailer for the movie, for like the teen trailer for the teen demographic, but there's 45 minutes of the film that got cut out because the executive producer was like, you don't need a build to a climax, you just like say like, oh, there's trouble, and then like cut to the trouble. Like, we don't need like any of that stuff happening. And he was like, yeah, you do, that's how you build a story. And they're like, no, you don't. And directors will, that's when the artistic side mixes with the business side, and the business will say, well, I have the $14 million or the $20 million or the $200 million that you need to make this movie. Do you want to argue with me about the fact that I think we should cut 45 minutes and save me money? Or do you just not want my money and you can make this movie on your own? And the director's like, we're gonna cut that 45 minutes, aren't we? So, I mean, as much as it is like, every artist wants to make a great film that's artistic and write this great script, then the business comes in, and they're great businessmen and they know about marketing, but they might not care so much about, well, this actor's really good, but I really like this one over here. I think she's prettier, so we're gonna go with her because I have the money. And that's like, so that's the kind of stuff that you run into in the business. Long story short, that's how uncredited and credited things happen and don't happen. So, yeah. Any other questions? I know that was like a math class, I'm sorry. I'm not a big math person, but when I started working as a DJ, it was a national show, so they'd start telling me things like, well, you have to notify the local affiliates by pushing this button, but don't push this button. If you forget to push this button, and this is my training, and I'm like, wait, don't push that button, but push that button, but if I don't push this button, then that red phone's gonna ring, and that means I'm in trouble. If the red phone rings, I die. Okay, got it, okay, awesome. And I have to hit, and they're like, yes, and here's this little time clock, and you have to hit this button between 8 and 12, and 36 and 46, and 52 and 58 in an hour. And you have to hit it somewhere in that block, and if you have to cut a song, you have to cut a song. But don't try not to cut a song. I mean, I'm like, okay, but, so priority number 1, hit this button, and play those spots. And they're like, yeah, if you don't play the spots, the advertisers get angry, and that'll be pulled from your paycheck. And I was like, but I don't even make that much money. So, do I just like pay it off? They were like, how about you just play it? I was like, okay, I will do that. So there's like so much math involved, it's horrifying. But yeah, so any other questions? I'll try to not get so crazy. Yes?
You live in LA?
I do. Well, I go back and forth between Dallas and LA.
Yeah, that was my big question.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I started like transitioning out to LA last year. But I have, the first like 6 months, I was spending like 3 weeks in LA, 2 weeks in Dallas. And then I was never in one place long. I felt like a gypsy, and I was literally living out of a suitcase. And you know it's bad when you go to the security checkpoint, and the guy's like, back again. I was like, oh gosh, I'm that person. And it's very exhausting. So this year I'm like, I'm not gonna travel as much. I need to have a bed and stay in it for like a consistent amount of time so I know who I am and where I live. But yeah, I go back and forth just because I knew that I wanted to try to expand where I worked and working with as many directors as possible and on as many projects as possible. And that requires that I be in LA and be available for work out there. But at the same time, my family is in Dallas. That's my home, that's where I grew up, and I love working at Funimation, and so I still want to maintain being able to work there. So if that means that I lose some sleep and sleep on an airplane and become a gypsy, then that's fine. I'll deal with it. I would much rather do that than anything else. So, any other questions? Well, I'll just jump into one of the questions that I generally get asked is like, what do I have to do to become a voiceover actor or become an actor? And probably the most important thing, yes, you need to take acting classes, yes, you need to read, yes, you need to be familiar with the business and get headshots and demos depending on how serious you want to be. But the biggest thing that you need to do is live where there is work. Hence me transitioning to living in Los Angeles. And that is a huge financial investment unless like a ferry comes by and is like, hey, I'm transferring your job, you gotta move to Dallas, or you gotta move to New York, or move to LA, or move to Canada. Those are the 4 main places I would say where a lot of voiceover work happens. Or you can, once you've established yourself in one of those places with producers and things like that, you could put a studio in your house, which a lot of people have, like a little studio which they could do really cheap with now with, I mean, I've seen somebody that has like a cardboard box that they've put foam on the inside and a cheap like $80 microphone, and then they sync it up to their MacBook and edit stuff, and that's their studio, which works. Now, if you're gonna be talking to like a major client that's like McDonald's or people like that, and you wanna record the spot in your pajamas and not go to a studio, you'll probably have to invest more money, as I know a lot of people that have invested like $10,000 to $20,000 for a studio in their house. I don't have that money lying around. My studio consists of my phone, and I'll just drive around and go to whatever studio to do the final project. But that's what I go into a closet with my iPhone, make sure there's a lot of clothes around, and that's how I record my audition. Or at the airport while I was on my way here, I got an audition that they were like, I got it at 4 p.m. and they said we need it at 6 p.m. And I was like, you must be kidding me. I am at the airport. So I found where my gate was, and then I went into the women's restroom and I took my sweater and I put it over my head so there was no reverb, and I recorded my audition in my sweater, I guess. So there's that. Yeah, there's some weird stuff that you do for work. I've also, and I don't advocate this, changed clothes while driving on a toll road, because if you're a commercial actor or a film actor, they're like, oh, you have to dress the role. So I was dressing for a gothic chick, and then I had a callback for an all-American employee at Albertsons or whatever. Well, if any of you guys have tried to get a job, which I assume you have, if you're a gothic person going to Albertsons to work there, dressed like that, it's kind of scary to some people shopping at your place of work. So I was driving, changing, because I had to get from one audition to the other. I had 22 minutes in between my 2 auditions. So I'm driving and changing clothes while I'm driving. Yes, I almost died. Did I make it to the audition on time? Yes, I did. I got cast as one and I was on hold for the other. It was an amazing day, but my goodness. trying to like put pink like dreads in your hair and then take them out with a baby wipe is not really the easiest thing in the world to do while you're still trying to not kill people. But it's fun. Like while it's happening, I'm like, this is so great. What an awesome job that I have. That I get to do like, oh my gosh, this is so hard to drive and put pants on while you're still trying to like drive like a normal person. I'm just gonna have to wait and do this later. So yeah, but that's been my life since I was 6. So I don't know anything else. I don't know what it's like. If I wasn't doing things like that, I'm like, what's wrong? I'm just like, driving around like a normal person. Wearing like one outfit a day. What's happening in my life? Not really, but it would be cool. Yes.
Did your parents get you into the industry, or how did that start?
My mom actually tried to deter me from getting into the industry. I harassed her about it since I was like 3, that I wanted to be an actor because my goal was to be on Barney. That was like all I wanted to do. That did not happen for me, so I don't know. But my mom was in commercials when she was younger. She did, I think, like 2 or 3 commercials, and she hated it because when she was young, they would line you up like on a giant wall and run down and say, you get a call back, you get a call back. I don't like your shoes, I don't like your hair. Now they just like write it down on a piece of paper, and if your agent wants to find out about it, they'll let you know. But as a kid, like everybody always did a great job. It was always fun. Apparently not when she was a kid. So she didn't want me to do that. So she took me to an open call for Miracle on 34th Street when I was 5. And I stood in line. She was like, it's gonna be so hard. We're gonna get there at 8. We're gonna stand in line all day. She's gonna read like 1 time, and then we're gonna go home, and she's gonna be like, that was not worth my time. And I waited in line all day. I did my first read. I came out. My mom was like, okay, time to go. I was like, no, they said I'm supposed to go upstairs to go to another room. And my mom's like, what did you do? Because I was the kind of kid that like when I was about to audition, later on I was testing for a network show on ABC. And I was 8, and I went to this audition. There's a bunch of people there, and they said, yeah, we want you to come back tomorrow. I was like, no can do, man. Like, I'm going to a birthday party in Texas tomorrow. There's going to be confetti cake there. I've already got the present. I'm not going to be able to make it tomorrow. It's just not on my schedule. I'm going on an airplane. I'm getting chicken nuggets at the airport. Like, I had this whole, like, plan. So the producer, like, comes out, talks to my mom. He's like, we can hold off till Monday. Can she go to the birthday and be back on Monday? And I was like, I'm not missing the birthday. My mom's like, oh, Cherami, please don't say things like that. So she thought I was in trouble and I like offended somebody and I had to go upstairs and like apologize. And so my mom like goes up, she was like, I'm really sorry for whatever my daughter did. They were like, no, she did a great job. We're just calling her back to go to the next room. And I was like, told ya, let's do it. My mom's like, oh, good. My brother's there. I think he was like 3 at the time. He's playing with his Hot Wheels and he's just mad he has to keep moving spaces. So I went into that room, read, and they're like, okay, go to the next floor. And I was like, told you, Mom. She was like, if I find out that you were upsetting someone. And I was like, what am I gonna do? So I kept like going on, and then it came down to like, it was the final 10 people from Dallas that they were going to fly out to LA. And I was number 11. And I was like, no, I don't have an agent. And she's like, maybe she doesn't understand what I'm saying. So she goes up to my mom, she's like, so what's your daughter's agent? My mom's like, she doesn't have an agent. She was like, well, she said she didn't, but I just thought she didn't understand. My mom's like, no, she understands. She's been asking for one for like 3 years now. And she was like, well, she needs to get one. So my mom's like, yeah, whatever. And my mom like blew it off. And I was like, Mom, she said I need to get an agent. That producer and that casting director said I needed an agent. I should get an agent. My mom was like, no, we're not doing that. So then she like, she's a dance teacher, and one of her students' parents was a model at an agency. She's like, just take Cherami to see my agent. If she doesn't like it, if my agent doesn't like her, then it'll be done. And my mom's like, yeah, I mean, you know, my child says obnoxious things. It's gonna be fine. She's not gonna sign her. And so my mom called this agent who was pretty annoyed that she had to meet with me in the first place because it was like a favor. And so she's like, I could give her 5 minutes. And my mom was like, perfect, because I have to go teach a class. I really just need you to squash this for her because she's been like asking me forever. So I went in. My mom said I was in there for like 2.5 hours. And my mom's sitting in the waiting room going, what is she doing? Like, what is happening? And then the agent comes out, she's like, I want to sign her. And I was like, I told you, Mom. My mom's like, this is happening. So, yeah, so my parents have been very supportive, but in the beginning, they were like, I'm going to shield her from any sort of trauma or negativity that this industry just exudes. So every time I wouldn't get cast in something and I would start to cry because I really wanted to do it or I was upset about something, my mom would be like, okay, you have 30 minutes to cry, I'm going to come back, and if you're still crying, we can't do this anymore. And I was like, okay. And I'd like cry for 30 minutes, and then I would hear her coming down the hallway, and I'm like, I need to cut this out, like right now, or this is done. I also had to get straight A's. That was my dad's stipulation, or I couldn't do this anymore. So in a way, they made me like very, very focused and made me know what I wanted to do, and also that I couldn't obsess over the business. I would go to an audition and my mom would be like, so let's go to the dollar store and get like $1, so that my mind would be distracted from it. Otherwise, I would be like, why didn't they like me? And then I'm this 5-year-old who's like, did I wear the wrong shoes? Like, no, you don't need to, that does not need to happen. So, yeah, long story short, my parents were supportive because I forced them to be. So, yeah. Any other questions? My mom generally comes to conventions. She's usually here with me, but she had to work this weekend, so she's pretty awesome. She hangs out with Omer Valderrama. And the picture with me is like a favor to her. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Yesterday you mentioned taking directing classes.
Yes.
What is that side of the industry like, and what got you interested in that? And are there any projects that you would like, or genres that you would like to do?
Yeah. Well, since I started when I was 6, I wanted to try to get experience in any and every possible aspect of the industry, just so that I understood what the casting directors were feeling like when I would go into auditions, what my agent felt like. So I interned at an agency, I interned at a casting office, and I wanted to know what it was like to be a writer, I wanted to know what it was like to be a director, so I took a writing class, and I still do screenwriting. And I also took a directing class where I met my now fiance, but he's a way better director than I am. I don't like upsetting people. It's really not gonna work if you're a director, because you're like, I need you to not do that again. Nothing personal. I would be like, that was so good. Could we maybe do it different? If not, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I totally get it. But if you could, that would be like awesome. Yes, just one more time. And by one more time, I mean 30. But I don't want to upset you, so one more time for now. So I took a directing class because I wanted to know what that was like, and I also knew that I didn't like to upset people, and I knew I had to get over this, like, fear. I have a really hard time, like, directing people that are my own age for some reason. Like, older people and younger people, not a problem. Kids, I love. But people my own age, I'm like, I know you're thinking that I'm a silly person and that you don't want to listen to me, and I get that, but I'm the director today, so yeah, that's how that goes. But I would love to do write and direct and act in like an overseas film that's like done in Italy that deals with art history and things like that, like kind of like a Da Vinci Code type project, but that does more in the past. I love like National Treasure and Da Vinci Code, all of those, like history mixed with suspense and adventure and things like that. So that would be something that I would want to do. I think now what I would really like to do, I was an associate producer for a web series I did. I would like to do more production stuff instead of directing. My boyfriend has directed me, well, fiance now, has directed me multiple times. He's a great director. I am not. So I would like let him handle that, and then I'll just do like the behind the scenes, all the paperwork, like production stuff if I'm not acting. So that would be what I am really interested in doing. Maybe I'll direct at some point when I'm like, I know that nobody's gonna say mean things behind my back.
Would you direct like voice acting?
I might. I mean, I had somebody talk to me about maybe writing some scripts for Funimation and maybe doing voice acting, but I would probably be the worst voice director in the world because I would be like,
Amen.
yeah, I know. I would be horrible.
I know.
I know. Because Todd knows that I'm the person that would be like, do you want to do it one more time? It really did not fit at all. But if you don't want to do it again, that's totally cool. I don't want to upset you. It's going to be okay. Steven, can you try to make that fit? No, I can't make that fit at all. Oh my god, can you ask him to do it again? Cherami, you're the director. So Steven said that you have to do it again. I thought it was great, but this guy over here. Yeah, so I would not be a good voice director. It would be horrible. Or I'd be like, don't worry about it, I'll just do it later, and then they'll think it's great, and then you could like auto-tune it, right? I don't like to upset people, so. Any other questions? Yes?
I don't know if someone's actually before came in kind of late. When you do different voices for, like, I don't know, younger kids, older kids, guys, and things like that, does it, like, strain your voice to get out of your own voice?
The only time it strains my voice is when I'm doing like a crazy screaming show, and then right after I'll do like a little kid show and my voice is just tired. Because normally I don't scream like I'm falling off a cliff for 2 hours in my normal existence, and then go play like a 4-year-old who's playing with a car or something like that. That's not normally my day. So generally, if my voice is just tired, that's the only way it's strained. I try when I audition to not do a voice if I feel when I'm coming up with a character to do an audition where I'm like, this is not gonna work for 24 episodes to 48 to 300 or whatever. I'm not gonna be able to sustain this. It's already hurting my voice. I'll try to figure out a different way to do the character that I feel like still remains true to the character, because I know it's just gonna hurt the show, it's just gonna hurt the director when he calls me, and halfway through the show, I have killed that voice because I can't do it anymore. So I try to pick something that's comfortable in the beginning, that I know I have range with, that's still a character voice, and that's gonna have the least amount of strain opportunity. Sometimes that doesn't happen. We drink a lot of tea, and a lot of honey, and a lot of cough drops, and a lot of oranges. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes,
How often do you have to do cold readings?
every day. For Funimation, every day I come to work is cold read. I've never seen the script before. For film stuff, I will usually get sides ahead of time, but the ahead of time is like 8 p.m. the night before your audition is at 11:30. If I'm lucky, I'll get 2 days. One time I got, your audition is tomorrow morning at 10:30. It's 8 p.m. tonight. Here's a 164-page script. Please read through the whole thing. Make sure you're comfortable with it before you go to the audition. And here's 16 pages of sides. Please memorize them by tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay. And then when you go to an audition, I've had the situation where they're like, oh, that was really cool. I actually have this other character, smaller, bigger, whatever, that I need you to read the sides for. Could you like look over it for 5 minutes and then come back in and read it again? And then you're doing like a full cold reading. So I had an acting teacher in Texas who seriously saved me because she taught me how to do like sight reading, where I'll learn how to pick up as much of the sentence as possible and look up and say it. And then as you keep doing that, you can see more and more of the sentence in your peripheral vision, so you're not reading down to the page and you're able to deliver the lines like you're actually talking. And I've been told on multiple things that's the reason I got cast, is because I got thrown a script and I had 5 minutes to look over it and I knew how to sight read it, and they thought I was memorized. So they were like, oh, she's like all set and ready to go. So yeah, cold reading is a major important skill that I would practice every single day. Practicing reading a sentence and testing your memory, seeing how much you can do. Even at Funimation, we don't have to memorize it. Sometimes I like to test myself, and sometimes it backfires seriously. but you try to memorize as much as you can of like these couple of lines, and then try to look at the animation and match the flaps as you're going. Sometimes it seriously backfires, and I promise myself I'm never going to do it again, and I always try. So, yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Like, what if there's like Japanese references in like anime stuff? Do you try to like learn about those before you have to go over the lines? Or?
Well, because a lot of the times, like I said, we get cold reads. We don't. I mean, we have. If it's like I've never heard of this before, I have absolutely no idea what it is, and it's like a huge thing for the character. Then normally the director has been given like a list from the translation of the history of this, you know, book that's being referenced, and they tell us so that we know what we're talking about. If we still need more clarity, there's a lovely little thing called Google that we can always look everything up to. I will say that for Shauna, since she ate melon bread 24/7, I was like, there must be something to this. I also really like the excuse to eat what they're eating just to try it. And now I have like a really severe problem that I love melon bread. So that was like research gone bad. Because I'll like see it in a dealer's room and I'm like, oh, it's a deal? 5 for 5? Let's do it. I gotta give this away to people. I cannot eat all this bread. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay. Like when you do certain characters' voices, and I guess they're like in an action scene or something like that, and you have to scream or yell or make random noises. Is that usually hard to call upon, like at the moment, or do you just like visualize what the character's doing when you have to do?
Yeah, generally, I mean, it used to be that when the only thing that I would get like tense up and get scared of is when I saw that I had to cry on cue. And then I had an acting teacher tell me, she's like, you have to do all of the background work and just trust and feel like you're actually in this situation. And trust that the tears will come or whatever needs to come is gonna come. The great thing about being an actor nowadays is even though the script says, like on camera, says she cries on this line, well, you can't like, guarantee that you're going to cry on that line every 30 times or 10 times that you do that take. You have to make something new for yourself every single time you're doing the scene, otherwise it's going to get really stale. That's what's great about working with other actors in like a film sequence is most of the time they never say the line the exact same way. Because they know if I say this line exactly the same way, we've already done that. We've already lived that opportunity, or we've already lived that way for this line. Ethan Hawke is like a master at doing that. Every line sounds exactly different. Every line sounds completely different. Every line is like a new understanding, and you're just reacting and acting with that person. Now for anime, it's a little bit harder. At least we have the animation, and I can see how terrified she is. I can see if she's sarcastic. I can see if she's like frustrated about it. But yeah, if she's falling down a cliff, the only time I'll get nervous is if I'm like, I don't have the voice to do this today, and she's supposed to fall down a cliff, and I can know that my voice is gonna crack. So I just have to trust. There's been a couple times where I was like, there's no way that my voice is gonna be able to do this. There's no way. And so I'm like, please, just let me do this one time today. I promise I'll never do it again today. Just get through this one thing, and I'll rest. I'll never talk again outside of here. I promise. And like the last like couple times, it's like gotten through like one take. And the director's like, I didn't think you had that in you today. I was like, I didn't either. Thank you so much. I don't know what you did, but thank you. So, yeah. It's fun. Yes.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually, did anyone ask like a question like, is there like a character that you dislike playing as, and you were glad you never played as that character again?
I don't think there's been a character that I've been like, I am over this person. Please never let it happen again. Because I love the characters. I always try to find like something that I can relate to and something that I respect and love about them. And if they're doing evil things, I can always say, but they're really good at this. Or like, yeah, they killed so many people, but look how many people really listened to them and executed the murders. That's charisma. I'm just saying. So I was trying to find something that I seriously love about them. Of course, there are scenes where I'm like, please don't make me do this again. Please don't make me do this again. This is just so uncomfortable. I mean, there's a lot of fan service moments where, like, when you're recording it, and like I said, there's like a giant window, and you're like, you can hear the director laughing, because yeah, it is funny, but it's still me putting myself in that situation, doing that, where it's like, this is a little uncomfortable. I mean, like, panty and stocking, the transformation sequence was a lot of fun, but it was a little awkward. It was not that I never wanted to do it again, but it was a little awkward with me and Colleen doing that, and she was like talking to me as that was happening, doing the scene with me so that it would like read really well and that there was a lot of like reaction to happen. But at the same time, that's a little bit of an awkward thing to do that scene with your director, who's a girl, who you respect, and is like a mentor, and then it's like, I mean, if you've seen that scene, it's very adult. So, that's the best way I put that. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we have like uno más or dos questions. Yes?
You try and watch the animes before you do voiceovers or audition for them?
Yes. I mean, if sometimes they won't tell us what show we're auditioning for. Sometimes they do, and I'll try to watch as much of it as possible. I usually can't watch all 24 episodes or 50 episodes before I go into audition, but I'll watch a little bit of it. When I find out I get cast, if I have enough time, I'll usually try to get a manga, if that's available, and read a little bit so I know the difference from the manga translating to the anime, what's different, what's the same, and try to integrate the two. I look at the Wikipedia page, and if you were in my panel yesterday, that's a source of controversy, because everybody likes to harass me about the Wikipedia page. And then we always watch every episode in Japanese as we're recording it, because we're referencing it. So sometimes they'll be like, I'll watch a scene and go, I have no idea how that reaction sequence worked, because sometimes the reaction sequences are like 8 different reactions, and it's really crazy, and you're like, I gotta figure out, can I watch that again? And I'll watch them like 4 or 5 times to maintain the integrity, make sure it's gonna match, and make sure that I understand the intent of the scene. So when all is said and done, I have watched every aspect in Japanese of my character in the show that I'm playing. They'll skip through, I don't watch the entire show sometimes, but if I'm a main character, I've probably seen the entire show when all's said and done as I'm recording. With Shauna, I had seen the first season, and I really hoped that they got the second season, and then Funimation said they were auditioning for it, and I was like, well, now the pressure's on. I love this anime. I would love to work in this anime. And then I lucked out, and they let me work on Shauna, and I did the movie first, so that allowed me to kind of, because the movie relives the first couple episodes, so I got to relive the season that I had watched and kind of set the tone for myself, and then move on and do season 2 and the OVAs. Any other questions? Okay, we have 5 minutes, so I guess if there's no more questions, we can call. Yes.
I have like, is it okay to ask like 2 questions?
What?
Is it okay to ask 2 questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I guess, is there like, do you have like a favorite video game series?
Oh. Okay, well, I do love playing Mario Party. I know that's like, I really enjoy Mario Party. And I just got exposed to the Wii U, and I have played those games, and I think it's like I don't know what it was, but there was one game that I was playing that I had a sword. We played this, me and my fiance and like 5 people, we played this game probably for like 3 hours. And I had the sword in my hand, and you have to like recharge and like lift it up, and then you're like fighting the whole time. My arm hurt for like 4 days. Because I'm like, and everybody's like, Cherami, how are you getting all these like best combos? I was like, because I'm just like waving this thing as hard and as fast as I can. And I had like the best track record. Well, near the end, I was like sucking. Because my arm was like, no, please. I couldn't even like stab anybody. It was horrible. So those are probably some of my favorite games. I really don't like playing video games by myself. I like playing video games with a majority of people. Because I try to guilt, like with Mario Party, I try to guilt people into, but I love stars. Can you just let me be the one to get the star? It's like, I'm not really good. So you should just bypass that and leave it for me. and my fiance's like, don't listen to her. She knows exactly what she's doing. I was like, I do not. I don't at all. So yeah, those are some of my favorites. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming so much. I appreciate it. And I just like to travel. So going to states that I haven't been to or going back and seeing the people that I've been to conventions with before, they become like family. And I love to hang out at the airport. So anytime to travel. I'm like looking forward to every convention because there's an airport involved. Most people hate the airport. I'm really in a chipper mood when I get to the airport.